This is Barbara Elstad with Mesquite Citizen Journal, and we are delighted to have Mayor Al Litman, who's current Mesquite mayor, with us today for an interview going into the 2020 election. We're about 50-some days away from the election and about 550 days away from finding out the results. So anyway, it's 2020. Just give us a short background. Now, you were first elected to the city council in 2011.
That is correct.
And then in 2014, you were appointed as mayor to replace the mayor who resigned.
That is correct.
And then you ran for election in your own right in 2016, and you won, obviously.
And that is correct.
And now you're running for re-election in 2020.
And that is correct.
And this will probably term you out, is that correct?
No, actually it wouldn't term me out.
Okay.
Because with the assumption that I win this election, I think that would make a total of 10 years as mayor. Actually 10 and a half years
as mayor?
Yeah,
okay.
Which would allow somebody to go again at that point.
Okay.
The question is, would I? And the answer would be, I can tell you right now, no. I'm honest.
Yeah. Give us just a little bit of your background. People are pretty familiar with you as a veteran and your Army service in Vietnam. And you've been very active in the communities, but just a little bit of your background.
Okay. Well, I started out as a school teacher.
Okay.
That was my goal before I went in the service, and when I came out of the service, that's exactly what I did. I went to Los Angeles. We were living at the time and took a job teaching in the inner city. I did that for several years, and then I moved on to Ventura County schools, and we moved out of that area. We couldn't afford a home back there at that time. And I taught out in Simi Valley School District for 15 years. So while I was doing that, I was continuing my education thanks to the GI Bill. And they paid for my master's degree, and I completed that in 1972. And that was in school administration supervision. And then following that, I decided that I would look at a doctoral program. And lo and behold, Pepperdine came up with one, and I still had GI Bill money remaining. So I went back to school again and continued through that program. I think I finished in 76 with that. And also at the time taught at Pepperdine University in School of Education Psychology.
Okay.
Loved it, but as time went on, I thought, you know what, it's time to move on in life and another profession. And I left education altogether, opened up an automotive service business in the San Fernando Valley. Totally. I loved automobiles, and I loved restoring cars, and it was just kind of a hobby of getting underneath an automobile.
There's a shift.
Yeah, you better believe it was a shift. People used to say this is the highest educated grease monkey they've ever met.
There you go.
Yeah. Well, it was a very successful business, and I kept it for 10 years, and I said, maybe it's time to retire young and enjoy life. Retired, went to Hawaii, where we had a home over there, and I decided after about 3 years of doing nothing but sitting on the beach and getting sunburned, that it was time to move on again. And I took a job with a private agency that contracted with the state of Hawaii to provide mental health services over there. And I did that, and that was a lot of fun. It was under what they call the Felix Decree, because the state of Hawaii had a lawsuit where kids that really had serious handicaps weren't allowed to go to school. They said, we don't have a program, keep the kid at home.
Okay.
And they got sued.
Yeah.
Didn't work.
Yeah.
So went to work for that and did that for a while, and then took a position as an autism consultant, where I'd fly to the outer islands like Molokai and so forth to provide autism consulting. And I did that for quite a while, and then it was time to retire. And we came to Mesquite.
Good.
And that's a long story too. So.
Yeah. Yeah.
And here I am.
Yeah. Okay, let's kind of jump into the first topic.
Sure.
Again, this is kind of a discussion type forum. I may appear that I disagree with you or agree with you, and that's not necessarily so, because I'm just trying to play the devil's advocate so that the readers get as much information as they can about the candidates that we have this year. So Okay. The city of Mesquite has been promised $1.7 million from COVID CARES Act through the county. And if certain things happen or don't happen, we could potentially get another $500,000 of the county's COVID CARE Act money. So I'm kind of interested in understanding your priorities as mayor. I realize you don't vote necessarily as a council person, and we're going to get to that later. But I'm curious what you feel as a city official, as elected official, how that COVID money should be used. Should it be used to replace the salaries that the public employees did not get July 1 as they were promised under contract? Should it be spent on facilities for the city? Should it be spent to give aid and to private businesses and nonprofits in the city who really suffered a lot with the shutdown and losing employees and so on and so forth? So talk to us about what you feel should be the priorities of the city when
Absolutely.
it comes to dispersing that money.
Okay. First of all, let me preface it and say that we've been ripped off, okay, money-wise. The
Okay.
average community in the in the state of Nevada received about $185 to $187 per resident. The
Okay.
amount of money that we're getting from the county is far less than that when you divide it by the number of the population we have in Mesquite. I think it's about $60 less per person. It's a long debated issue. We've been on the phone with the governor, and it hasn't gone real well. I can tell you that right now, because he says it's done right. We said it's done wrong. North Las Vegas, in fact, is in some state of filing a lawsuit against the state because they didn't get their share either. Although, of course, obviously, with a large population, they got more than us.
Because the governor awarded just a huge chunk of money to the county, who was then responsible for dispersing it amongst the cities in Clark County.
Except the city of Las Vegas, which, because they're over 500,000, received theirs, which actually is $187 per person.
Okay.
So they got a much larger share than us. But that's,
Okay.
that's water under the bridge right now. In fact, we haven't gotten any money, to put it bluntly.
Right.
I don't know what Las Vegas status is, but I think they've gotten theirs. We're still waiting.
Okay.
And the 500,000 that you mentioned, let's hope.
Yeah.
Again, there's been some heated conversations over the telephone that we've had directly with the governor. It's difficult. Okay, so my priorities. Okay. First thing, and I talked to our city manager about it, I said, we've got to do something for the residents of Mesquite, and I want a large chunk set aside to assist with rent. Because as the money runs out in the other programs, and it's going to run out, in most cases it has, we're going to have a number of citizens here that have nowhere to go, and they can't pay their rent. It would be administered through the Salvation Army. Las Vegas's program they've got 14 different social agencies down there that do it. We've got one.
Right.
And the city, and I said to the city manager, I don't want the city involved in this. We shouldn't be the ones doing the dispersing. It should go to an agency that handles it, a nonprofit. The other item that I mentioned to him is to set aside some money that we might have to help with small businesses. And that amount hasn't been determined. In the way of small business, forgivable loans in the case.
Okay.
Up to $10,000, similar to the federal program, because I know they're going to run out of that money.
Yeah.
And
Okay.
because they're not planning ahead very well. And then we said, well, what else do we have to do? Well, we do have to reimburse some COVID expenses. That's a definite.
Yes.
For personal protective items and so forth, and masks and on, and everything, sanitizers and so forth. And that's a priority to get that done, because the county wants accounting of this money. They want it not by receipt, but what are you spending the money on?
Right.
Which is kind of interesting, because the other communities, they just got the money. Here's your money, have fun. I think Winnemucca got $1.9 million or something, crazy amount of money, but there's no accountability. They can do what they want with the money. We're kind of caught by the county. They want accountability.
So you're not interested in any kind of renovations of the city hall entryway?
No,
like
that
Henderson
was,
did?
Oh, please. That was, I love Mayor March, but I don't, no, I'd be very embarrassed, and let's get a new car for the mayor to drive, and, things of that. No,
yeah.
no. We're not going to see this money over and over again. It's a one-time thing, if and when we ever see it. And it's got to go towards primary things. Pay raises, well, it's a very controversial issue. I'd rather restore basic budgets first, with 20% cuts. Maybe we can bring it back to 10%. I'm not sure, depending on when we get the total bills that have come in. And as far as raises, I don't think there'd be money for it, to be honest with you, because, again, our officers and our fire and all, they're great, and they deserve the money. But we've got a lot of people in town here that are destitute right now financially, and I want to see that they can pay their rents. That's number one. And that small businesses get money to stay alive with, at least for a while, until some other source pops up, maybe another stimulus bill, which is stalled at the time. At the very end of it, if there was money left to restore some of the raised money, possibly. But I'd also like to see, prior to that, some employees brought back to work that have been laid off.
Okay.
And we have a number of them.
Yeah, mostly part-time.
Part-time,
Yeah. We didn't have any layoffs as far as full-time people.
No, we have not.
Yeah,
We have
just
not.
part-time.
Yeah. And there is a need to restore, where the police department is shy 4 positions. So rather than give the current officers a raise, I'd rather see, let's hire 1 more police officer back, or 2, or whatever, whatever the money allows for.
Okay.